in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Your friends Zach and Steven and Jonathan.
There he is.
There he is. Behind the camera. And we're going to play some Hubworld Aidalon today. We're going to use nothing but Hubworld terminology the whole time.
Staging, forging, delving.
Staging, forging, delving.
I actually
drawing,
think
exhausting.
I after we streamed last week,
breaking.
I had an evening where I went and played with some friends at an IHOP of all places.
It's a good place to start the LCG conversation.
Yeah, iHub. And the terminology did slowly get easier, but the one that continues to mess with my brain is council and commons.
Mm-hmm. They're a little close.
They both start with C's.
Yeah, we gotta send that back to the Earthborne think tank.
Okay. There's got to be something.
What's another word for council that you could use?
Well, the
commons
council's like, that's a small amount of people, and a commons is a large amount of people.
What would you call a council if you weren't calling it a council? Triune?
Gathering?
Brain
This is
trust?
not my strong
Trust?
suit.
Trust?
Trust!
Trust.
I'm going to indulge your trust. I'll bet they went through like 20,000.
Yeah, they probably didn't struggle with this at all. Not one bit.
We're just going to go with it. So we're going to play some games, probably one, maybe two, but we do want to talk about up front some questions. Jonathan, was there a particular...
Yes.
Are you curious or are the people curious? Who's curious?
Everybody's. Well, so...
There were some comments coming through.
Yeah, I saw this in Discord quite a bit. And I saw Zach trying to hold himself back. And I saw Steven trying to hold himself.
I always
saw that through the Discord.
Yeah, I could tell.
Steven is typing and then nothing.
Just like Botanami for it.
Well, it's like Steven's typing, nothing. Steven's typing, nothing.
Yeah.
Steven's typing, and then never gets posted.
I always
like
feel
reader seats, man.
It's a little weird going into almost like economist mode, where
you don't even do that here.
I know, but
got him.
Got him.
Just the breakdown of all the math and stuff, which I think we'll get into some of that here. But like, I did share some of that on the Discord of this past weekend. People were asking questions, and I couldn't resist.
So if someone tells a friend, and that friend tells a friend,
yeah,
it's not distinctly not a pyramid.
7%.
Yeah, he owns a Corvette. He knows what he's talking about.
Yeah. So what's the question?
So the interesting thing is that we don't not just Hubworld Aidalon that's coming out as a competitive, expandable card game. 2 releases a year, we're pretty sure.
That's what they've said publicly.
That's what they've said. We've also got Gudnak's Kickstarter going on live currently, which we'll be playing next week.
With their new faction.
With their new faction.
Well, and their booster boxes.
And the booster boxes.
And we
we'll cover that in a
podcast
second,
about that. But they're also looking like a competitive, expandable game. And then on top of that, we've got Ashes, which is it's been running for what, 5 years?
6,000 years, Jonathan.
6,000.
Originally came out in 2015.
And that makes it the longest running competitive expandable card game in the world.
No, that's not true. Versus and some other ones have been around for
Are they expandable or are they collectible?
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, well, non-collectible versus collectible.
For 1 to 4 players.
But there's some terminology stuff here. Like a TCG is an expandable card game.
Right.
It's just a collectible version of it.
And
we are being sheepish around the word LCG because it's a trademark of Fantasy Flight Games. But what even is an LCG anymore?
It's not a living card game. It's a loaded card game. It's loaded with cards.
Yeah. So it's effectively just a non-collectible expandable card game.
Yeah. So basically the question is, what we've seen, really, if you look at it, if you look at the history, you see the LCG model come up. You see it be successful, not as financially bombshell as TCGs can be, but it was successful. And you had a lot of people who were able to get in and play these games because of their distribution model. Those people are now making their own games. They're taking the lessons from the past, and in these 3 instances, Aidalon, Gudnak, and Ashes are all trying to do it in their own way. And so we have to ask, are LCGs a viable format to begin with? Are these companies about to solve the problem?
Yeah, it is cool to see different approaches. I think Terrence actually,
Terrence?
friend of the show, Terrence, says it very concisely here, which is just you've laid out a very clear case in the past that the LCG is not a viable model for retail. What has changed and what Earthborne Games is doing?
What a great answer. Yeah. Because a question, because it says retail right in there. It doesn't mean it's not a viable model.
It's baked into it. So that is just a very revealing thing. And for a little bit of context, very high level summary. So you've got Ashes, originally released 2015. In 2020, we partnered with Plaid Hat to do the PDP model, which is, and that became Ashes Reborn. So kind of update to the game. If enough people are subscribed, it'll keep going, and that's at least in the U.S. That's the way you get the game primarily.
And notably, like that also was basically saying distribution, going to distributors, which go to local retail stores around the world, etc., is no longer the primary mechanism that this game is going to use to get cards to players.
That's right. So now they're planning next month to launch a Kickstarter for what they're calling Ashes Ascendancy, which is a new starter set, and I think it's an incredible product for that game to have, because along the way, Ashes Reborn came in 2020, and then somewhere along the way, they introduced solo and cooperative modes to that game. But to access that part of the game, you have to buy a starter set over here, and then there's some dice that you have to buy this expansion and this expansion to get. Then you have to buy one of these things just to even play solo, which is like a crazy amount of products to buy.
Which is, you already, point one, you've outlined one of the biggest problems of non-collectible, non-rotating expandable games, which is that the back catalog eventually swells to a point where the buy-in is massive.
That's right. So they're doing a Kickstarter campaign for this new starter set that's going to be solo, cooperative, and head-to-head mode in the same box, which I think is a great thing to do. They're attacking that problem you just mentioned, which is this swelling catalog, with a really cool innovation partnering with Forgefire, which is one of Christian Peterson's companies. They're going to have a deck builder. You can build the deck, and you can hit a button, and it'll print and ship to you, including the dice you need to play the game.
Yeah.
So you don't have to buy the back catalog at all. You can just buy just the cards you want to use, and suddenly you now have 10 years of content that is at your fingertips, ready to print. Now, of course, that's going to be print on demand, so print quality will be slightly different and depend on who you are and how you feel, a little bit less than traditional printing methods at scale. But at the same time, they don't have to keep a back catalog of 50 different SKUs in stock. And players don't have to weed through 50, because we saw that with Game of Thrones LCG back in the day. I remember early on, someone wanted to play, and it's like, well, here's the $500 in 22 different products you have to buy to get one card from here and 3 cards
And you
from
don't
here.
really need that one, that chapter pack, because it has that one in
That's
there.
right.
You don't need that one for this deck.
Or you have things like the Arkham Horror Pack that was really popular because it had a player card people wanted a lot of copies of, and then you just can't play the whole cycle of the story because the Miskatonic Museum is missing. If they had this solution in place, it's like, oh, you can just print another thing you want, so here you go. So that's one thing that's floating, but they're part of that as well. They're actually going the other direction, which is the game is going back to distribution, and this is Plaid Hat's attempt to really Reborn was almost, it was the middle of the pandemic too, so it's a certain moment in time, and Plaid Hat had just reacquired the rights to themselves. They just became independent again.
Back.
Yeah. And so at that particular moment, the PDP model, I think, was really necessary for them to understand what kind of demand was out there for the game before really swinging. And they did a lot of development before it even got to that point, but it's just a very different time. So now, trying to effectively go as wide as possible and to grow the game and make it really accessible and make the back catalog really accessible. And the co-op and solo mode on top of it makes it a different kind of experience. And the starter set itself to me feels a lot more like almost like a board game in a box, where you have, it's just what it feels like. And I do think the Terrence question is what is ringing in my mind in this one. So I think that starter set could be a particularly successful product at retail, but I don't think the math has changed in terms of, I think the LCG model is viable. I don't think it's particularly well suited for the local retail environment, and we've covered that ad nauseum. We did a whole, I'm trying to think about what that podcast series was. I feel like we did a podcast series around the time Ashes was happening, because we were working through all of those similar problems. So anyway, you have Ashes,
and maybe more to your point, or more clearly, we don't believe that this change Ashes Ascendancy going to distribution is going to lead to a massive amount of Ashes playgroups happening at local game stores. I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah. I do think there is a certain amount of reach that is available for something like the starter set. But fundamentally, and I was covering this to an extent on the Discord channel this weekend, but and we talked about it a little bit last week. I think the cleanest way to say it in terms of a LCG style model is just that you're doing essentially the same work you would have to do to make a collectible game.
Yeah.
And then you get two massive disadvantages compared to a collectible game. The first one is that the ceiling on how much a player is going to spend is so much lower. So effort to possible return is just crazy different. And then the second one is that the entire industry is built around collectible games.
It's a known language, you're saying.
It's totally a language. So from distribution all the way to retailers, to players and new games coming out, you don't have to explain anything. If you say, hey, this is a TCG, you just communicated a whole book of information to 99% of people in the space. So now you have the challenge of what is this? How does it work? Even here with Hubworld, it's an expandable, non-collectible game, but Hubworld is planning on doing 2 releases a year. Gudnak's planning on 1. Ashes is planning on 3 or 4 different packages. It's not in 2010s. An LCG meant they were going to attempt to release a monthly pack with 60 cards, right? And it came out once a month, and it added, and there was a cycle and deluxe, and like there was a format to it.
That's why it's a bummer that they've got that term copyrighted.
Yeah,
because I wish we could just say LCG, right? I mean,
well, we can. That's not necessarily our problem, but so when we're breaking this through, right? You were talking about what is Earthborne doing different that makes this more viable retail. I don't think it is. I think there are retailers. This is what we were in the 2010s, which it runs up and down the chain, which is you have to have publishers effectively willing to having such a preference for this model that they're willing to make less money doing the same amount of stuff. Not to say that
it's not strict. To be fair, it's not strictly the same amount of work, because the amount of cards in the Ashes card pool in 10 plus years is nowhere near the amount of cards in a Magic or Yu-Gi-Oh card pool in 10 years. It's not even close.
Yeah, but I don't know the exact number, but I saw a number for Hubworld floating around on the Discord of like 200 and something cards. I was like, that is the equivalent of producing a collectible card game set.
A set, yeah.
And so we have someone like Sorcery, who is a collectible card game. Their first set was like 400 cards. The second was 200 and something, and they're only doing 1 a year, and it's proving that can be a successful collectible model. And so when you're looking at something like Hubworld, they're putting out 200 card sets a year. They could be putting out 200 card collectible sets a year. They're doing the design, they're doing the development, the play testing, they're doing all the art. That is 99% of the effort and cost on the design development end in that side. So for them, I happen to know, for someone like Andrew, Earthborne is not inherently a profit-first company.
Sure.
And I think companies have to be that way to pursue this kind of model. Even the podcast that went up yesterday with Tim from Gudnak, I was asking him about this, and that's when he kind of got to, he needs there to be a third way. And I love that conversation we were having, but effectively, he wants to make something in this space because it means something to him. And he's willing to make less money and have a harder challenge in order to do it. Similarly, when we opened Covenant Tulsa, funnily enough, about what year are we in, 2025? So 13 years ago this week, we were exceptionally this kind of store, which is, it was very much not a profit first
or even less
kind of space. Yeah, who knows?
It was nowhere. In fact,
and so we expressly for about 4 years didn't have collectible games in the space at all, and struggled against that for a long time. And then Destiny came out, and I share that story all the time, and it's just mind bending what happened. But the reason I say that is, collectible games that are the language of the space and have the potential model that could be lucrative for a local retailer have a hard time convincing retailers to care. So then you go a step down, and it's like, even if you had, let's just get crazy. Let's say your local space has 50 players of a non-collectible game. And we'll go back to the LCG model of old, and it's $15 a month, or let's do easy math, $20 a month per release. They can make like $500 a month selling that product, which is just not
revenue,
a lot.
Yeah. There's no profit.
So $20, if there were 50 players, it'd be $1,000 revenue.
Yeah, so $500 profit.
Loosely $500 in gross profit before you.
That's like one guy on a TCG.
A random Tuesday night, for a Magic player walking through, right? Or a Destiny player or a Sorcery player or whatever.
So if I may, Zach, can I frame this up a little bit?
Yeah, go ahead.
Let's frame it up. So I think the first thing is that the two terms, collectible and non-collectible, aren't exactly like, they're very imprecise. But it's just easy. So collectible games are not inherently collectible, and non-collectible games are not inherently not collectible. As we know from Arkham going out of print or Marvel Champions going out of print, collectible things are just things that are hard to find. And generally, those are the valuable collectible things. So a collectible game is, what we really mean is a randomly distributed rarity system game. So you're going to have some cards are harder to get in a box than other cards. And the cards that are harder to get are going to be worth more. And so you're incentivized to buy more of a thing to try to get those rarer cards. What the non-collectibles are doing is doing a fixed distribution of cards so that you buy the thing and you get the same thing every time world over, which is a very different kind of experience. So you either buy the thing and I buy the thing, Zach buys the thing, we both get the same exact contents, or I buy the thing, Zach buys the thing, and we get different contents based on how essentially lucky we were with our pulls, which is the booster packs. Now, what the LCGs have traditionally struggled with, I think, is a few key points, right? So let's narrow in on each of them and then maybe see where each of the games is trying to answer that.
Sure.
We're talking about Ashes. So one of the big problems with the non-collectible games is that at the beginning, you say to a potential player, this is so much cheaper than buying a booster box of Star Wars Unlimited, let's say, or 5 booster boxes. To get the collection that you need to build a deck for Star Wars Unlimited, it might be thousands of dollars, it might be singles and all this kind of stuff. Let's say it's a $100 core set. We'll just take the 3 that FFG required and smash them into one. Wild idea. And then it'll be $100. So that's way cheaper than buying into a TCG up front. But then as, let's say, we advance 3 years, we've now got 8 expansions. Let's say each of those expansions is $100 each. Now we're looking at a $900 buy-in for core set and all the expansions on a non-rotating expandable game. Typically, that's what they were. So now it's like, well, I can either buy a few booster boxes of Star Wars Unlimited and start playing that for $600, or I can buy this entire back catalog of stuff for $900. Seeded into that conversation is the fact that the person buying the $600 in Star Wars Unlimited thinks that they might be able to get $600 back out of that if they ever sell those cards. Now, of course, we know that's very rare that you would get anywhere near that amount once you're a year or two down the line. But you hear the stories about how sometimes that happens and you buy in really cheap and the game blows up and now all of your cards are worth a bunch. And you're looking through your closet for your old Magic cards to see if you can sell them for $10,000. So there's kind of two pieces there. One is the non-collectibles have an ever-growing buy-in cost. They don't have any limited environments. They don't have any easy modes to play. So if you don't play Constructed, you spend a lot, and that gets a problem more and more over time. And then the TCGs offer the promise of your cards having value. That is going to be consistent so that you can sell out of one, buy into another, and continue to bounce around. So how is Ashes solving the ever-growing mountain of back catalog problem? Print on demand.
That's right.
So they're just basically saying whatever you want from the back catalog, print it, and it'll ship to you. Hopefully there'll be a button that's just give me everything. I hope. I mean, I assume they've thought that players would want that. But we also don't know what the cost of that's going to be. I assume it's going to be quite low comparatively. But let's say it's $100 to print all the back catalog of Ashes to get current. That's still a way better low buy-in cost than what it would be to buy all of their old packaged expansions that have the distribution, mixed in there, and the packaging costs and all of that all factored into those prices. That's what Ash is doing. What's Gudnak doing about their back catalog?
Don't know yet.
Nothing.
Yeah. Well,
don't really have enough of one yet.
I was gonna say, from what we can tell, they're aiming to do about one new expansion per year. An expansion is a box of currently focused on a single faction that's being added with some supplemental stuff for the other stuff. I think it would be a while before they even got to that point. I think the other part of Gudnak is among the three were the Ashes Gudnak Hubworld Games approaches. It's the most like a board game.
Yeah.
Of them. So there's not even it is customizable and you do pick your decks and that kind of stuff. But I can see a world where people are much more kind of like the cooperative LCGs, more comfortable just buying the starter set to play the game, and then expanding almost as desired instead of.
I need to go. Yeah.
Come to Thursday night league night. I need to like have a deck that is not just going to get smoked. Like you couldn't do that in Thrones.
That's reasonable, and that's also honestly an approach that you take where it's like we're going to build this game to not even be focused on you need the entire collection to build the best deck to go play.
Yeah,
but it's more of a casually board gamey kind of thing.
And I think because the deck building there is restricted in the way that it is, they would have the easiest time getting away with. You could just play a deck from the core set and probably be fine, actually.
Yeah. That's true.
I wouldn't be surprised if that's actually the case.
And then what's Hubworld's solution to the ever-growing back?
Rotation. So they're planning twice-a-year releases, and then only 4 of those releases legal at a time.
So the 5th release knocks the first release off.
Not even, I think important to note, because this talks about how seriously they're taking it. Their first set's not even a core set. Their first set will rotate out.
It's just the first set.
It's just the first set.
Love it.
Yeah.
That's genius. Yeah. So let's say each of those, I do not know. This is absolute speculation. I'm just kind of basing it on Rangers, but let's say each of the big box expansions is $100 or something. So your buy-in at any given point to be active in Hubworld, fully active would be $400 at any given point. And then you lose 100 every rotation, and then you spend 100 to get the new one.
And notable, the comparison between LCG and TCG there is, and I witnessed this in real time when we moved to Destiny, and then later Fab and stuff. But I think as an LCG player, you kind of get used to just owning everything. As a non-collect, I'll just say LCG player for short, but you know what I mean. Whereas collectible, it's not even expected. Like that is almost preposterous. Like right now, if you were going to get into sorcery, even sorcery, which is just one release a year, no one is like you have to have a full play set of everything right now. Right. Set 3, set 4, like that's just not even how it functions. So similarly, with Ashes, there may well be people that want to buy the whole thing, but I think the actual approach is don't even. If there's 1,000 cards, you don't need 1,000 cards. And Thrones had this exact. It would be so cool back in the day for Thrones if you could just build your deck and get your deck. I think there's potential there to completely change some massive paradigms.
I mean, I think the biggest problem there is why are we releasing anything?
No, that's exactly. It's like, what is my? It's like starts to melt.
We're not going to a local retail and we can print the back catalog. What are we doing?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah,
that's a separate thing. Let's save that for a future.
The Covenant.
The
industry collapses on itself.
It's one of those ideas your brain just starts like folding in on itself because you're like, and there were sparks of that conversation when we first learned of that because it was just like, wait a second, like. Why not just add new cards there? And if people want them, they can get them. And if not, cool. Anyways,
so
you're framing it up.
And then if we talk about the back catalog, so those are the kind of 3 approaches to the back catalog. And then if you think about the TCG model, like you were talking about, the back catalog solution there is essentially single sellers.
Yeah, and they traditionally have rotation.
Yeah, it's true. So some kind of, although we've seen less of that. So Fab's not, kind of not doing that.
Fab's not, Alpha Class is not doing it. Sorcery hasn't talked about doing it.
But even so, like singles, being a lucrative business to open packs and sell the contents in a single form solves a lot of the back catalog problems because you can just get, again, it's like a print on demand Ashes thing. It's just buy on demand from 20 different sellers and get the deck you want.
Well, that kind of reminds me of the conversation we had around Altered, where they were talking about doing the printable stuff once you owned it. But
you're talking about that marketplace too. They've been talking about it.
Yeah, but with TCGs, that's not really fundamentally a problem. Like I've never had here's the deck I want to play. Now I have no way of getting these cards. LCGs actually do have this problem because you can, that same scenario you described earlier of $800 buy-in with 8 different SKUs at $100 for a game. Like the upside of a TCG from a retailer perspective is they usually don't stock more than 1 or 2 of the most recent sets.
Right.
But with an LCG, we've ran into this face on where it's like a new person walks in, you have to have every Thrones pack they could possibly need. And then I remember we had tons of conversations about what packs are really critical for new people to buy. Make sure we have those. And it's like, well, there's 18 of them at this point. So anyhow.
Another issue that is tangential to that with a non-collectible expandable card game is there is no like the difficulty to get in to the organized play environment is not just about securing product. It's also about the fact that there's nothing aside from full octane constructed, because like you don't have a sealed.
Yeah.
Let's both open 6 packs and be on an even footing, or let's both open. I mean, you could go through the trouble to build a big cube or something and try to introduce that to your group and whatnot. But most of the time, people playing the LCGs, they're playing full constructed. The whole benefit of it is that full constructed is easier and cheaper to do. And so the biggest appeal is I can own every card, and I want to use every card to build the decks that I want to build. And so a new player comes in, like Josh, and it's like, okay, so I need to A, get everything, B, learn how to play this game on a high level, because everybody here has been playing full constructed for a year plus. And so now I'm just getting beat down week after week after week after week. Fab runs into this too, week after week after week. And then I start to understand how to win the game. And TCG saw this in a great way, which is 3 packs each, we'll draft them, or 4 packs, 6 packs, we'll seal them. We do a smash up format, whatever. Because things are randomized, it creates interesting combinations of cards without having any player input to make sure that that's the case. So that's a big thing. So having an even playing field for new players to play old players is something that the LCGs struggle with as well. Moving on to where I want to play the game with people. The biggest problem in all of tabletop games, certainly card games, this is probably the biggest problem. Yeah. It's only interesting if you have other people around you who are building and playing decks, because that's what a metagame is. And so being able to test your ideas against other people who have the same cards is the entire beautiful pursuit of this hobby. It's why we love it so much. Whether that's casually, you guys are hanging out, or you're super competitive, going to the highest end tournament, at the end of the day, you want somebody else to be doing the same thing that you're doing, and you want to smash your ideas together and see who wins, or just have fun with it and see what happens on the table. So where to play? The classic answer from the old days is the local gaming store, which store being the most operative word there. The LGS, with an inundation with trading card games, starting with Magic the Gathering, popped up around that genre and basically said, okay, so I can sell $4 booster packs to people who come in my door. And in order to get them to stay around and do the thing that these booster packs allow them to do, I'll throw up some tables and people can actually sit down and play this game. And that kind of turns into tournaments. And then it turns into publisher hand-holding of like, here's some kits, here's some posters, give these out to the winners of your weekly tournaments, and on it goes. And that has created this kind of local organized play thing where it's happening at game stores. Now, even the TCGs don't have this in spades. Magic obviously is so prevalent that it is probably the one great example of being able to find a game of Magic anywhere in your city. But past that, I mean, Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon's probably even bigger at this point, especially with the lower age range. But anything that isn't like the big 3 or 4-ish, I mean, Star Wars Unlimited still, people will struggle to find a local game store willing to buy in and support them on that. Altered, the same kind of thing.
For a long time, Fab had the problem.
Fab, Lorcana even is not, you can't be guaranteed that a game store around you is going to be supporting, selling, etc. And so it's kind of not perfectly solved for TCGs. There's still this kind of wiggle of organized play, and do we do big tournaments or pro tours or not? Is that even important for marketing? But if you compare it to like the non-collectibles, we are certain. We've been there, we've done it, we've seen it, we've talked about it, we've looked at it, we've seen it again, we've looked at it again, we've talked about it again, we've tried it again. These products are horrible for the local game store, period. They're not designed to drive revenue, to drive profit on a per player basis. They're the lowest turnout. There's no reason in the world you would ever want anyone to play a non-TCG in your store, given that it destroys the entire financial model of how you can keep your doors open. So it's not going to save you if you're a non-collectible card game player. I think that just needs to get right off the bat. It ain't going to happen. They're not going to care. They're not going to save you. There's going to be a few wild people who are like, I love Hubworld. I want people to play it here. Cool. But 99% of stores are stores, and they're not going to do that. So what other options do we have? And I think that's the LCG question, ultimately.
Zach, quickly, just so people have context, can you tell your Game of Thrones versus Destiny story? I know you told it on the podcast, but I think it's very illustrative.
Yeah. So, as I said earlier, several years of very exclusively non-collectible games being supported in our local space. And
it was all the LCGs, right? Mm-hmm. Just the LCGs plus Ashes?
If you don't count Ashes as an LCG, there were other ones like Doomtown was around.
Yeah, we booted some dudes.
Technically, there was like X-Wing and Imperial Assault stuff.
Yeah, it's basically Finish Fight stuff plus Doomtown plus Ashes. Mm-hmm. But then it was Conquest and Star Wars LCG and Netrunner and all of that.
But when Destiny came online, there were some local Thrones players that were upset's probably too far. But we're just sort of like raising an eyebrow because we were hosting just a fair number of large Star Wars Destiny events and doing things. Because of that, we were doing some things for Destiny that made sense to do that didn't make sense for Thrones. But having conversations with them at some point, I went and just looked at the math because there was one night I was in the store, just happened to be hanging out playing Destiny, and it wasn't like a release week or anything. It was just, I think it was a week or two after release. And I noticed whoever was working the store that night had sold a fair number of boxes of Star Wars Destiny. So I just went and looked at the register and how many we'd sold. And at this point, the actual math is lost to me. But it was some crazy multiple of that night of sales of Destiny. We generated similar amount of revenue as we did from Game of Thrones all year long. And it was just like a very eye-opening mathematical equation. You were saying like retailers aren't going to care. It's not even, there was a while when we were living in that world and trying to make it work where I almost had a chip on my shoulders because more stores didn't care towards the stores. It's like, these games are the best. They're the cat's pajamas.
The lowest hanging degenerate
You're just going to sell them. But then actually, it's like if you just want to be reasonably making it, not like just pay people okay, not even necessarily benefits, and you got to build rent and all the stuff. It's wild, actually. And like I said, we very much were unprofitably struggling against this for a long time. And then seeing that example with Destiny was just like, well, no. And Destiny to me is like the lowest, Destiny, by the way. Lowest level of collectability possible.
Yeah, it was.
It's like an expensive LCG because you could effectively spend $500 or $600 and get a play set of every set. You literally could if you bought 2 Saga sets. You could spend $600 and we would guarantee you had a play set of the thing. And so even that though, it was not really even built for draft, but we forced it and it was like, oh, and then you have prize pack. It's like it was like we've been running around with a 100-pound weight vest on, and suddenly it was like, okay, after 4 years of doing that, just take that off and go for a run. It's like, I could run all day. This is crazy. Right. So,
but your point though is that it's not the retailer's fault.
Not at all.
This is nature at work. This is just that you may as well blame the cat for jumping on your couch. I mean, it's like
so. That's exactly where I was going because it's
exactly where you're going.
Yeah, the cat. Yeah, no, the
words right out of his mouth.
Where I was going was, I used to blame them, but now looking at it, it's like I said a bit ago. It's hard to convince a local store to care about a new TCG,
right?
Let alone an LCG. And so, I think the best it's probably going to get, technically the best it's going to get is if you have someone like we were, willing to just lose money to exist and support you. And even then, unless they're just independently wealthy, that's only going to go on for so long before they have to switch or quit, period.
And there's plenty of them that are losing money. And they're not even LCGing.
Yeah, and a lot of them are like... Anyway, I'm not going to start it. Yes. So then the next one is like actually probably for most people the best case scenario is you have a store that already exists that is okay with you using their space, and there's going to be a player that puts in a ton of effort, and even like I said, even for like Fab, I know so many communities that if the players weren't willing to schedule, organize, host, run, manage and hold the prize support. I mean, literally,
We know them exactly.
I know the people that are doing this, that are running it, if they weren't doing it, it would not be happening. While the store is literally getting to sell boxes of this set every time.
And they take the entry fees. They take all the entry fees too. And those players don't get anything out of that.
The crazy thing is, I don't even, like, I understand how hard it is in that space and how not lucrative it is to be a local space. So I don't even, this is not, there's no shade in any of this. It's just literally, as an LCG, I think your best hope for a local game store environment is a store owner or store who essentially is willing to let you use their space because they already have it on a night that they're not typical. You're not getting Friday night because it's Magic. You're not getting Saturday, whatever. Might be a Tuesday night or whatever. But players are still going to have to run it. And that's true all the way up to most TCGs, even as it sits now. So it's just, that's a difficult proposition for them. That doesn't make it a format that's not viable, but it's not a product that is particularly suited for the local retail environment.
Yes.
And it's competing against something that built it.
That was
that built the environment.
It built distribution, it built retail, it built everything.
Yeah, and the other part of the LCG format is you would think, another thing to dispel is you would think that lowering the barrier of entry so much would result in significantly more interest in a thing, which has just not panned out. I think there is interest in people, and there are people that will play these games that would never touch a TCG, which is part of why I love that this format can exist, and there are publishers like Andrew willing to pursue models, and Gudnak and Ashes, that aren't explicitly profit focused or maybe the most economically efficient way to release a product,
and a little gambly,
but are willing to put out something like this. Because I think there are a lot of people that aren't able to access those games or play those games, or aren't interested in that model or whatever. And so it's awesome that it can exist, but to think that it could exist and reasonably compete in the space that was literally built and designed by the CCG model against titans of industry at this point. And now there's like a second layer of big games. Like this is where you get the Unlimited, the Fab, the Lorcana.
We did it.
It's like you have the big three still, which are massive juggernauts. And then now you have a second layer. So introducing another card game in an alternate format that requires all these SKUs, that makes a lot less money, that takes more effort to explain what it is and how it works and all this kind of stuff.
That's not an IP.
Yeah. So I think it's just very good in light of all of this. Like, I have mad respect for the publishers pursuing it. And we're working with a lot of them. So checks out. But it is difficult. It is a difficult path, and there's just a lot of pieces to it to be successful.
And I would say two things must or are going to or need to change as it relates to organized play with non-collectible games that don't have a reasonable business proposition to a local store, which is the store that's normally hosting these kind of events to sell more products. So once that engine is gone, there's two things that can happen. One, the LGS can change. And so the S can become less prominent. And I saw one of the comments here about gaming clubs, about gaming bars, gaming, board game cafes, these kinds of things that don't need the product sales to drive the revenue. So an LCG can be played in a board game cafe where everybody buys coffee and a beer and a sandwich, croissant, etc. And they're trying to get you to buy that consumable thing rather than the booster pack. The LGS is saying buy this consumable booster pack. The bakery or the coffee shop is saying buy this consumable food or drink item. The club is saying buy this consumable membership for access. The more that we get the booster box and booster pack is not the consumable profit driver, the more the LCGs can find a space there. Now, of course, they're still going to be run by players. They're going to be run by community members, people, etc. That's 100% still the case in those other models. But it at least opens the door to a lot of people that are not there to buy products of games that still can make the space profitable. So that's one thing. I think the LGS or the play environment on a local level is going to shift. And then the other one is just reorienting what organized play actually looks like. I think the weekly tournament has traditionally kind of been the thing that we think about organized play. And listen, it's awesome. this cannot be understated, that there is a beautiful simplicity and comfort in knowing that every week at a certain time, at a certain place, when I'm up for it, I can take my deck of cards and go play this game with somebody else, likely. That is much easier than sending texts and sending emails and calling, heaven forbid, and all of this like, hey, you guys want to get together at such and such and go to Disney, would you put that thing together at IHOP? Yeah. That is way harder than just looking at the schedule of a local store and saying, oh, I can go at this time and play it. Yeah, I'll just go show up.
IHOP is not exactly the ideal everything.
Right.
Tables, environment, etc.
Better pancakes than Top Deck, though.
That's right. And better coffee than Top
Deck.
Yeah. And that's saying something because IHOP coffee is not exactly on the top tier. It's like a tier 4 coffee, you know.
But I do think organized play for the LCG is more in friend groups and families and what has traditionally been seen as kitchen table. I think it takes a little bit more effort to get those groups together, but I also actually think that at the end of the day, it is more connecting because you're engaging with people on such a much more intimate level to get these things to happen. So like we have a Sorcery is not an LCG, but it has an LCG, you know, like body. But we texted and we finally got a date on the calendar. It's like there's a few of us. Hey, can we all get together at this particular time at a friend's house to do this thing? And that, to me, the experience of that is a lot different than going into a game store and just like playing a few rounds and then going home. We had a good time. We were able to catch up. How's the family? You know, that kind of stuff. So I think friend groups and family groups and those kinds of things become more prominent. I think big organized play events in the country or the world become more relevant. So, like an LCG, like a Netrunner, for instance. If I could go once, maybe twice a year, somewhere within 3 to 4 hours and just like play my hardest just to see how good I was, that is basically the level of competition that I at least am looking for. Like, I just want to know 1 or 2 times a year. Like, I got that sorcery deck.
I still got it.
I'm really, how much good as that once was. I've got that sorcery deck that I'm really stoked about. And, like, the idea of going to Unland Cup in Seattle and just playing one competitive event with it is very attractive to me. I don't really need the weekly thing, but I like the idea of at least having something to look forward to later on the horizon. And I think that's also getting older. 3 to 4 months from now, I'm going to go do a thing, to me, is actually more on the table than every week I'm going to do a thing.
Sure.
I'm not going to do a thing every week. Really.
I think that's part of where we're at in life, too.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's also worth noting, as a retailer that was exclusively focused on LCGs for years, our like peak game at peak time for an LCG, it was probably Netrunner.
Yeah.
And it was, I don't know, there'd be 30, 40 people showing up every week to play. But
it's massive.
Even Netrunner, which I'm going to guess from a competitive LCG side of the fence, had to have been the biggest, like most successful, most active players at one time. Even at that level of success, the thing you were just describing was a struggle for them, which is people having places to play. And I think historically, the vast majority of LCGs have been played at the kitchen table. And
games
in general, period.
Let's even speculate.
And I think it's like, for all the reasons we explained, it's very true of LCGs because they are such a hard retail product. And so I don't think that is any less true today. And I actually think for most TCGs, that's what's happening now too. And so one of the other friction points that can happen, though, is twofold. One, people who desire something other than that. And we see this all the time at Sorcery, where it's like, there has to be more than one set a year, and we need promos, and we need play mats, and we need local prize kits, and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, he's been saying the whole time, like, one set. Yeah. Anyways.
So emulation is not the answer.
Yeah. And now I lost my train of thought. I got too focused on the prizes.
It's just a disaster. Okay, well, since you lost your train of thought, let's get back on the train, which is, where do you go to find people to play LCGs with? How do we solve that problem? Is Ashes doing anything to solve that problem? Let me tell you, it's not more tournament kits running through distribution channels. It's not. Okay? It's not. Yeah. The number of those kits that just got turned and burned on eBay in the FFG days, fine. Sorcery, massive.
Yeah.
People just turn and burn. Listen, it is a distribution channel for sales, for selling products.
And we already talked about this. This product is not particularly conducive in that environment.
No,
and that's it. Let alone the $0 product that you just need to get to a store.
And you think a store is going to buy that and then put a thing on their web so they're not.
As importantly, you think a distributor wants to mess with that?
No, they're not going to mess with that.
Yeah.
Well, it takes 6,000 units of a little thing that anybody can, like, you're going to put limits on people. You're going to say, oh, well, Johnny, you already bought one. We can't give you another one because we know you're supposed to only run a tournament every month. No, they don't care at all. It's a unit. It's a SKU. They're going to send it wherever they want to send it.
It's a widget.
So it's not tournament kits. It's not local retail kits. It's none of that. Please, it's none of that. You don't. Let's not try to push the rock of the mountain. You got to go outside of that environment entirely. So Ashes, nothing specific, right? Gudnak, nothing specific. Hubworld.
Well, Gudnak is doing something interesting because they have their booster boxes, which are cosmetic only. So alt arts, foils, that kind of thing. So you can always get the core thing in the standardized, non-randomized packaging. And I've heard a lot of people talk about this, and I've had a lot of people talk to me in the development phase of their game saying this is what they want to do, and none of them have crossed the finish line and actually made it happen until Gudnak. So the Kickstarter is live right now, and they're doing that. And that's like a grand experiment. But I do think that is the kind of thing that is harder for people to appreciate. It's like, so you're a non-collectible expandable game doing what? No. And how does this work?
Cosmetics. It's like
but it's draftable. It's also alt arts and all that kind of stuff. And so they're exploring new space there. And I do think that is hypothetically a SKU that could be better received there. But as we've talked about before, Magic and the big three are on such a different scale. It's really hard to compete for that space. And then even then there's like now another layer that is pretty successful. So it is very challenging to be in a game. There have to be solutions outside of that system.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So I think the reality that we need to be upfront about here, just looking at the landscape, is it is on the community to do this stuff. And not on the community. It's like there are always the people that enjoy it, that like getting people together, that like even the prestige of being the tournament organizer, that have the time or the income to just make this a fulfilling part of their life as a service to others. And I think Sorcery was the beginning, again, the LCG bodied TCG, leaning into this saying, hey, it is kitchen table. We love the idea of the community doing what they want with it. So y'all go do it. And I think just the more that an LCG community can completely divorce itself from this TCG store tournaments pro tour mindset and actually embrace, just really let's all embrace together what it means to do it on our own. And start talking and coming up with solutions. And we see the Unlimited Cups happening with Sorcery. We saw a number of tournaments that have happened all last year.
Sorcery Con.
That continuing to go, but it's kind of like there's a culture shift that has to happen here, and a lot of people that come from TCGs in their earlier life now playing LCGs and thinking that they even rhyme, I think is a big issue. It's a totally different idea of how to get together and play these games.
Yeah, the second point I lost earlier was exactly this line of thinking, which is I've also seen a number of times where people get into LCGs or non-collectible LCGs and
NCEGs,
and expect what they've seen from TCGs. That was ultimately the local Thrones problem when Destiny came along, because we actually weren't doing anything special. It's just we hosted and promoted a sold out like 60-person Destiny event, and we were just like, we're hosting this thing in 4 weeks, and then it sold out because Destiny was on fire.
And you can just give booster packs for prizes.
And it's like, okay, we're just doing our thing, and then you put the same amount of effort into Thrones, and like 6 people show up, and that's fun. We were doing it, like we're happy to do it, and it was great. However, when their expectations were, we treat all of our games exactly the same, and you need to promote it more to get 60 people here, and that's what's going to make the difference. And it's like, hey, we're not doing any, like
it wouldn't.
You just don't understand. Like there's just so many. Anyways, so I think it's really important as players if you're electing to play these games, and I think you should. I'm a huge fan of these publishers and these games, right?
I'd say most of the time they're better. Strictly.
They are better.
I'll say it.
They are better.
I'll say it.
Don't even say most. Let's just get the soft words out of here.
Because the kind of person that does this is so invested in the artistic nature, the passion of the project itself. They're not injecting their thinking with how can I sell more booster packs, and that will inherently lead to a differently designed card game.
Yeah, well, and I think it's as cheeky as it is to say, be the change you want to see in the world, right? Which is, if you're electing to play these games, having the expectation that the publisher is going to be capable of doing all the things that Magic does, or having the influence over distribution like Magic does, or any number of those things, just toss it out the window for a second. If you're choosing to play this, it's just going to come with the cost of having to put potentially work in, or find people to play with, or hosting things, or meeting. Like I scheduled and met up at IHOP as an example. So it's part of it, and I think it takes a lot of people doing it. And I think most people do it anyway, but they're just unnaturally bound to the local space. And if they're willing to let you do it and use it, great. That's cool. Mm-hmm. There's nothing wrong with that. But also, it does take a lot of community driven effort. It doesn't work otherwise. Especially you look at the math on the LCG model, and it's like there's just no way. And the other kind of final point for me is, do you want to play the game or not? Generally, like, do you need to be incentivized to just play a game? Like that's the
ultimate question.
That is the end question for me always. And it's like I don't know, promos and playmats and stuff is fine, but like, do you want to play it or not?
Yeah.
And then go play it and find people to play with. And it takes work and it takes effort. And if you're not into that, just go to Friday Night Magic. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, that's already there for that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. All right, so what have we decided?
Final thing, our LCG is a viable model. I think my concluding statement would simply be, the LCG model is not particularly great for the 3-tier distribution local retail model. However, even with the anecdotes from Andrew, who was very involved in the FFG 2010s era, it's not
pretty involved.
It's not.
I'd say so.
It's not really ever been whether or not it's possible to successfully make a non-collectible expandable game and financially have it either be sustainable or even successful. It's just that it's never going to be on the level of success that a TCG can be. It mathematically just doesn't work out. So we have to stop expecting it to behave like that. It's going to be different, but I think it's totally viable. We've seen it be viable several times, and you just have to have people willing to explore and take risks and do something because they want to do it and not just because it's the lucrative way to do it. And I think there are a lot of people in that space right now, including Ashes, Gudnak, and Hubworld.
Mm-hmm. And like, obviously it's viable because Ashes lived like that for effectively 7 releases, just off of subscribers to us, just off of us sending products to people.
Well, that's more than 7 releases. That was just Corpse of Veros.
Yeah. Well, Corpse plus you're talking about Red Rains? Red Rains is 7. But then we did Breaker of Fate as well. That would be 8. And then
the Reborn kit. Let me just see.
9.
I have this number somewhere.
But like Reborn kit was happening as a hope.
3, 4, 5.
Look at that beautiful release history there.
I know.
So this is an example of an LCG that lived without the local retail environment at all.
Yeah. So 13 product releases in the past 4.5 years. No.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But Ashes community, difficulty finding people to play Ashes.
That's right.
So they lean on online clients, TTS, these kinds of things.
Etc.
Which is that is a totally viable thing that I put in almost a different pocket of this conversation, because I think fundamentally the question is, can we play these games in person with other people? That's the whole reason that this is printed at all.
Yeah.
So we need to be able to have something that gets us together to play. Do you? And I think it's gonna be the community members that do it. Do you think that doing like an FFG World style thing, if Ashes did it once a year, or if Hubworld did it once a year, that is a viable investment of resources for the publisher?
Yeah, for sure. I think for smaller communities, having kind of tentpole events some number of times a year is really helpful. And you see, it's not an LCG, but Alpha Clash is doing exactly this. They're planning on hosting 4 major events a year. And so they know they're a smaller game. Not everywhere's got a local community where they can play, or, even players nearby that they can play. But about every 3 months, you have something somewhere going on in the United States that you could go to. And they just did Vegas. They're doing Des Moines next. In December, they were in Charlotte, so it's like East Coast, West Coast, mid,
Cool.
all around. I do think that's really important because, as you were saying earlier, you having one thing to do every 4 to 6 months
or a year
is enough to like engage with it. And that's what I mean too. Just there's clearly signals that there's an appetite for these things. And what I mean by that is sorcery with the coming out of the gate saying we're going to do one set a year inherently is bucking the trend of I have to have constant engagement to engage in this thing. Mm-hmm. That's not even constant engagement from a product level, let alone events. And we're also not going to really do any events. We're just going to have it be player run. And so I look at something, we keep looking at Hubworld cards in front of me. And it's like, if the game is great, play it. Mm-hmm. And how far does the publisher responsibility go to give you opportunities to do it? I think it's really cool to at least have one worthwhile event to go to if that is your game of choice, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's reasonable. And I do also think that the investment of publishers into so much of the extraneous stuff is why a lot of the products are just not as good also. Like when you have a Sorcerer Hubworld or anybody who's just able to say, I'm going to spend all of my time and manpower and resources. We know as things get bigger, they get worse. That is a universal constant. Certainly when it comes to business, I've never seen a business grow and grow and grow and give me a better experience. Never. But if you can stay small, you can stay focused, the creators can stay passionate about the thing that they want to create and not have to hire 20 people to run an event in North Carolina or whatever. That allows them to, I believe, truly make a much better product. So there is a lot to be said for that part of this too, is that the team at Earthborne can make an incredible game if they don't also have to make an incredible marketing push into the local game store that they can never honestly get a foothold in, and an incredible 16 event series every year, and an incredible program. You just can't focus on all those things at once.
Yeah.
Rather than focus on the product. But then there's an element here as a community. This could be a lot easier. We got to find, there's got to be tools and ways that we start speaking a language that transitions across all the LCGs and the non-collectibles, that there's a universal kind of centralized thing and way of doing this. And that has not happened yet. That's not been discovered or put out or localized around yet.
Yeah.
That's what we need.
Well, I mean, I think you said something there that made me picture the FFG years. And they were a publisher that had 5 or 6 of these going at the same time, who could all share an organized play team.
Yeah, true.
Art department, factory, printing, shipping, freight shipments from all these things coming in at the same time, and even their ability on the organized play level was, and they were trying, but like it was apples and oranges compared to something like Destiny as soon as it came out. It's like it's just a different, the thing I explained earlier, right? Yeah. It's just a different enterprise. So I personally, I would love if it's a little wild to me, and I understand how we got here, that publishers sort of work their way into the position of having to do all of that.
Everything.
That's not how it started. And then when Magic got very successful, it makes sense they start doing that because you have all the resources to do it.
Yeah.
But
it became an arms race.
Yeah. I would love it if publishers could just focus all their energy on creating a great experience, and we can help with that. We can be part of that. So
maybe we should build a business.
Yeah, maybe we should. Maybe that's what we should do. But that's really the goal, right? Of so much of what we're doing and investing in ourselves is how can we take more of that burden off so they can just focus on creating that great thing. So more to come on that. We're working on things all the time, and I'm excited about it. But
so yes, viable, not at local retail. And I think innovations to be seen on the community side. But even so, I think all of these games can and will exist as long as they want, honestly. And I think what would stop Hubworld is like, we think we've done it. We think we've told the story we want to tell, and we're moving on.
Yeah. Any comments worth? We kind of just ran off with that one.
Chef's been fantastic.
So anyway, yeah, buy them. Buy them from us.
Been fantastic. But
buy them all.
There are no burning questions.
Cool.
But a lot of really good conversations, a lot of really good chat in the chat.
Yeah, I think it's just, I know I could talk forever about this, but I just think it's good to have the appropriate expectation for these publishers in these games. And hopefully this was helpful context to to understand. I think it's really hard. Publishers work their way into doing a lot of things, and expectations kept getting higher. And it's just very difficult to do all the things they need to do to exist, and then do all that stuff on top. Well,
and even that can be extended to the game stores as well, which is a lot of what the chat is talking about. Is that they worked themselves. A lot of them tried to work themselves into a place where they were doing more things than were viable for them to be able to keep the door open. And publishers come up and leave all the time. They go bankrupt constantly. It's just more noticeable when an LGS does it.
Yeah.
And they have more overhead. So they got to do the things that keep the doors open first. And again, when you see a big bag of money sitting on the table or a lot of loose change.
I was going to say, it's not a big bag of money. That's and for most, it's not even that. That's the...
when you see a money.
It's one thing when you see a company producing a product and like it's very clear that this was made as a product and then the idea was to make money and you're doing things in a way that just like print cash. I'm gonna guess 0.01% of local retail stores are lucrative, and so they're just trying to survive. Of course, it's like, do you want to eat or not? Alex Becker coming in with a really good question here.
That's Alex Buckner.
What?
Yeah, don't get.
I'm mulliganing this card.
No, that's not the one.
Oh, that's not the one? Where's Alex Becker?
I'll find it. It may not have been Alex Becker.
Oh, here's. Yes, there's been this asked a couple of times.
Alex Becker was saying, biggest question now is how do I store all my cards for these games? Steve, do you have any nearby solutions that might be presenting themselves?
Might be in the shot from the very beginning.
Well, glad you asked. Also, once your fifth thing comes out and the first set rotates, you can take it and throw it in the garden, probably, because it's Earthborne. And then so you only ever need 4 sets worth of storage at any given time. And did you know how many rows a bulk box has?
Get out of town.
Zach?
Don't even tease me, Steven. Teasy Stevie. He's back. I'm going to guess it's Quattro. Look at it. Oh my. Can we go top down?
Dang right.
Beautiful.
So we could go first set, second set, third set, fourth set, and then toss this in the
set, sixth set.
Fifth set, sixth set, seventh set. And then you have one box for them.
Even better. Now you're just going to... Imagine after 3 years... No, it's 2 a year, right? Mm-hmm. So after 4 years, you just have 2 bulk boxes sitting there with all the cards on it. I don't know if a whole set will fit in this row or not.
200 cards times what? 2 each? 400? Easily. 3,800 but these bad boys.
You'll probably be able to get 4.
Almost 1,000 cards.
It'll be like set. This is one bulk box will get you probably like 4 years of storage for Hubworld.
And I don't actually mean, you can compost the sets that rotate out, but I think there's probably an eternal format or whatever. You know what? I've never cared about it. I've never wanted to play an eternal format my whole life. But of course, I would play like here's 3 cards you can use to deck build format. I'm a limited guy, and so obviously the more limited a thing is, the better.
Well, you're a limited guy, but that is another problem that we didn't talk about. How are LCGs solving that?
Well, it was kind of the it's hard to get new players on the same level as existing players. It's hard to start,
It's notable because Ashes doesn't have an answer. Gudnak has booster boxes.
Yeah.
You can draft those. And Hubworld has mentioned draft somewhere. I don't know how. I don't know any details.
But also
on the Discord,
it'd be so draftable.
Corey said something about draft.
It'd be so draftable.
Yeah. We played some Netrunner this week. Not as draftable.
No, those draft packs didn't work.
They tried.
It's cool. I mean, it's cool, but no. The whole point of draft is it's so dead simple and easy. Everybody gets 3 of a thing out of the thing, and you go.
That is definitely when
peripherals.
We got back into Destiny, and then specifically when I started playing Fab. Having access to like draft and sealed was like, oh, I'm back.
I mean, playing all that Ethereum Legends Limited.
Yeah. I did not realize how much I love those formats.
But even
until we got back,
I've been very happy with the sorcery set constructed. So constructed using only one set.
It's awesome.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it's freaking awesome.
Are you Bo Paxton?
And you can only do that because they're releasing 1 a year. So it's like you actually have time to explore the whole ways that you can. Yes, I am doing Bo Pax because I refuse. It is now it's the apple of my eye. Because Goldie's so obvious, and then Jayco's obvious as well. Cool, love it. But this is just like a weird, you have to work really hard for this to have value ability. So it's got me written all over it. Also, I want to talk a little bit.
I want to play Adnus.
Yeah,
Could
cool.
be interesting.
Yeah. Let me talk for a second about, for all the new Hubworld players, I want to do a very quick demonstration to give you a frame of reference to get started on card valuation. I'm going to use a card called Calling in Favors. Okay? I don't have this in my hand. So, a lot of people that didn't play, we heard from on the video, people that didn't play Netrunner were kind of like, I still have no idea what I'm doing or how to evaluate anything. So here's what we know. We know that we can always spend an action to gain a card, to gain a shard. Card and shard. For one action. So if I take a card like Calling in Favors and I say, this card costs me a card to play, so it costs me the card out of my hand, that's -1 card, and -2 actions, to gain 4 shards and a card. So if I equate, obviously we know a card is an action, a shard is an action. So I can convert all of this down into action economy if you want to play.
This is the old Netrunner map.
If you want to play the math, right?
We back.
We back. So the card itself is 1 action. The 2 actions on the card is 3 actions. So you're paying 3 actions to gain 5 actions. 4 shards and 1 card. So 3 for 5. So you've just netted 2 actions by playing Calling in Favors. Of course, the downside of this is that you give your opponent an ability to kind of like do some combo-y stuff while you're just sitting there. But at its face, this is kind of the fundamental. This is probably, if I'm guessing, this is in the preview deck. This is going to be a base level exchange rate of your actions. This one might actually be a little bit higher because the opportunity value of not doing anything on your turn is probably fairly high. But 3 actions for 5 actions, that's pretty good exchange. I think a lot of times you'll see like 3 actions for 4 is going to be pretty standard. This game feels pretty tight. So if you think about like your assets that you're installing, let's look at one. How long is this going to take to pay off? Let's keep going here. It's on the bottom of the deck. Disagreeable Inspector. That's a card out of my hand. That's 1. You can factor this or not. You guys can figure out your own heuristics here. So I got to play the card, which is an action. And then I've got to pay 1 to forge the card, which is an action because it's a credit. Or a shard, excuse me. I did it already. I lost it. I thought I was going to do it the whole time. I was going to use only their terminology, and I already said credit. So this is an action.
It was a good run.
Action value of 2. But the moment that it comes up as a forge, it immediately gets me 1. So I'm -1 action if they trash it immediately. But if they trash it immediately, it costs them 2, which means I'm now up. How many is that? 2. Technically 1. I'm up. -1 plus 2 is
But
1.
-1 card.
Yeah, the card and the shard.
I see.
You get the shard back instantly, so you're still -1. If they trash it at that point, then you're still up 1.
But for them to trash it, they had to delve.
They had to delve.
And that's like a half cost because they get the upside of the delve. But now we're getting into weird territory.
But point being that just having Disagreeable Inspector on the board, forging it, and immediately getting the shard, if they trash it at that point, you've still profited. Good exchange. So, great card.
Easy math.
Easy math. A good exchange approved, like
Stephen emoji.
Good exchange.
I mean, the thing is, they're all good exchanges. But what you'll find is that things like let's take our friend. This is why trashing obstacles in this game is just impossible right now. So in Capricious Informant, it's 4 actions to get it on the table. We need 1 to get down and 3 to flip it up to forge it. I get 1 back immediately, so I'm at 3. I'm at -3.
So you're saying basically you're equating a credit to an action.
Because you can always get a
shard.
You
can get a shard to an action.
The Woolly's been eliminated. I'm still in the game.
Everything breaks down to actions on the action card, right? So then if we get the lowest common denominator is action, and then we convert everything that a card is to actions, then we can say, because the actions that I'm installing this card with could be getting me a credit instead.
If A equals B and B equals C, then
A equals C.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're breaking it all down based on this. Each of these equal 1 action.
Yeah, actions. So obviously, Capricious Informant, the moment it comes up, it's untrashable because your opponent will be losing that exchange. You can't.
Because they would have to pay 4 actions, basically.
4 actions. That's right.
To remove it. In which case.
And you already, the moment you forge it and use it before they have the opportunity to trash it, you're down 3. If they trash it at that moment, they're down 4. So you win that exchange. But there's 3 turns until you're neutral on this bad boy.
Yeah, because if I spend 4 to get rid of it, if I left it, 4 turns later, you would have made as much money as I spent to get rid of it.
That's right.
It's only past that point that it was more efficient for me to get rid of it.
And think about this. It's on the 5th turn of this being around that it was better to install and use this than it was to just gain a credit. Put that in your brain, okay? Think about that. So anyway, if the game's about to end, don't install this.
Yeah.
In fact, I wouldn't know if I'd install this ever. Once we get the full construction, I don't know.
There are...
And then there's also an ability that probably matters. Also.
Well, there's also a certain amount of context that's lacking there.
I don't even...
Which is sometimes having any card in your archives path means you can steal an agent, right?
It is, after all, a game and not a spreadsheet.
And then on top of that is there are moments where it's I'm taking the last action. I'm going to get to take the first action next time. And I've got, X number of shards. And so I have the ability to pay to res it, pay to forge it. All right, I'm out. I said res.
Forge it when the game starts.
Forge it, and then use it, and then immediately start on my next turn use it. And so I'm kind of more quickly getting utility out of it. However, there are also shard limits in this game. Yeah. And so sometimes you have, and this is rare, you have too much money. And
really?
So I've been there actually.
Wow.
Where
your opponent must be awful.
You get 3 or 4 of these shard generating cards on the table, and you can get higher quantities. In which case, spending on anything is better because it would otherwise go away. So there's exceptions to the rules. I digress.
Oh, for sure. It wouldn't be a game otherwise.
So real quick, I'm playing Abnus. He does have the instant gain a shard ability, and he also has this. At IHOP, my friend Matt Garner was. I'll keep referencing that. My friend Matt Garner was using this Abnus ability very powerfully, and we learned recently that if you find an agent in the old archives, you don't pay the cost.
That's
take that. Yep. So his ability says after you complete a breach on a player's archives, exhaust this card and archive the top card of your commons. Archive 1 card at random from that player's council. So what I was seeing him do is it's like.
Wait, what was he doing?
No, I can't. He did. I don't know what you're talking about.
What was he doing?
So what he was doing is he was waiting for his opponent to look at his commons, so that he could then use this ability, knowing that he didn't have any risk, basically.
That's pretty smart.
Yeah.
Good job.
Otherwise, he was just gaining shards, but he was just very effectively making use of it and getting a bunch of cards in his opponent's archives. And then once we learned you didn't have to pay for agents out of archives, that's pretty fundamental in terms of just cost structure there. So don't play the dream game when you take a shard. We wouldn't even make it through a game. We'd be on the ground before we even got close.
I think Abnus is the opposite of Anarch. They're part of the sort of
the cops.
The cops.
Yeah, pull his art up. He's got his little badge, and he's an enforcer. You can see it on the bottom middle of his card where it says enforcer.
Oh wow, we've inspired Landon here.
Saying, listening to you guys talk about this stuff makes me want to open a game store. I honestly don't recommend it. It is so challenging. Even just on the surface, the idea that you are essentially selling products that other people can sell, and you have very intangible ways to differentiate yourself among other people. I think, if anything, I would encourage you to consider. I want it so bad to exist and be possible for people to just have game spaces in a sense, but it's very challenging. I mean, that's what we're working on. 3.0 is the dream forever, but we kind of go in with the mentality that it's okay if it doesn't financially make a lot of sense. I hope it does. I hope we crack that code, but it is tough. It's a tough equation to solve.
Yeah.
Dysphoria, do you still have to respect the cipher if you find an agent archives? You do.
You do.
Always got a cipher.
The biggest problem with Abnus ability is it could just be a credit. That's like the downside. I almost wish that wasn't on there.
Yeah, if it was card draw instead. All right, and this is the best mulligan in baseball, right?
Yes, I've already done mine. And I think I want certain agents in my opening hand, just to get economy. Like if I can get plus 6 to 8 credits, shards, and then you like steal it, it's fine. Because to steal it, you're probably going down like 3 or 4 shards.
Let me shuffle back in.
Yeah.
You want to go first or second?
I don't care. Let's roll. Even, I'll go first. It's odd.
I'm first.
You're first.
I can't delve on my first.
Neither of us can delve on
Action.
first action.
It's so funny. This is how coded my brain is to aggro. What I wanted to say, because I'm consciously trying to use Hubworld terms, is I can't delve on my first run.
Nice. I think we just gotta call it Hub Runner.
Hub Runner. I thought we decided not runner was the appropriate. We played Netrunner this yesterday.
Yes, Android Netrunner.
These games couldn't be more different.
That's not true at all.
Could be more different.
They're the most similar games of all the games, but it's only because there's 2 of them.
It is similar to me in the way that when people in my life that aren't familiar with games find out what I do, they're like, "Oh, so like Monopoly," and it's like,
it's more like Monopoly than it is like basketball.
yeah, correct.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
like as you narrow so it's very narrow in that there's only a few of the games that feel like this at all.
Yeah.
But if we had 1,000 of them, Hubworld and Netrunner would not be close.
Yeah.
If there was enough of the games in this kind of hunting lane genre.
It's
I haven't told you this, but I'm working on a theory
Okay.
that
Good.
all these games can be reverted back to deck of cards plus a playground game. So you got your Red Rover for Magic. You got your hide and seek. You got your hide and seek for the Netrunner and Hubworld.
That was not ready for that. Oh my gosh.
oh
So obviously.
clearly Red Rover.
Red Rover
Yeah.
send the goblin right over.
And then it either breaks through or it
It
dies.
doesn't. Right.
Yeah.
And then you've got a racing game, which is Lorcana, etc. And
So we hear.
Key Forge.
Yeah.
And so we don't have one for tag, as far as I know. But there's just a lot of, once you break it down, there's a lot of space. But this is a hide and seek game.
We need like a last person that has been touched by the thing loses the game.
Yeah.
Timer game. Like a hot potato.
This is a hot potato.
There's
Also,
a lot of
like,
TCGs then available in your framework that have not been made.
That's what I'm saying. Leapfrog? I don't even think that's actually a game.
Well, I mean, hopscotch.
Freeze tag is kind of interesting.
Star
We're trying
Trek was
something
kind of
with
like
freeze tag.
hopscotch. It was just like do the right symbols, and then you win.
Don't love that.
No, the ability's not good, Zach. It's not.
I
Yeah,
will
Duck, Duck, Goose.
use my first action there.
It's not good, but it's not good in the way that I think it's good. Like right now, using it is a waste of time because I can just go pay 1 and give you heat. It's the same.
Agreed.
The same fundamental, as opposed to drawing the card. But then once you're on 2 heat, it gets good. But if I have to trash a card in your front row that costs like 3 or 4, I'm paying a lot to give you heat because I also have to factor out I'm not getting the card.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. What? That is so good.
Oh,
Alex
man.
Becker.
True.
You know, if you just took that comment in a vacuum, it's like, what is this guy talking about? It took me a second. That's the playground game he's referring to.
It's very good.
Oh, man.
It's very good.
John, I appreciate you having insane theories.
Yeah.
Yours truly?
Some money. Yeah. Where am I supposed to put this? Oh, oops. Oopsies.
What do I do?
It's like the box. I watched another game that we played, and I put one of the cards upside down as well. I don't know why.
Just a savage.
It's like disgusting.
We need to get you opaque sleeves
yeah.
to end our suffering.
I agree.
Immediately. I declare a delve. I'm going to delve on your comments.
You know, that's kind of what I wanted you to do, but also it's like problematically going to prove my theory.
wouldn't you want your theory to be right?
But problematically.
It's like how Steven has a theory that like human beings are done for and the robots they're going to take over. Like he
That's
doesn't
not
want the
really
theory
it.
to be right.
It's not really a theory. It's pretty obvious.
I think the robots will lose. That's my theory. That's not even a theory. That's just a belief, a hope,
All right, I'm going to do Canal
a
Network.
fading hope.
See, that's how Bopax wins. I just throw stuff out of your front.
That's really good.
Well, it's not good now.
I know, but
No.
it's just a cool thing that you do.
Yes, in general, it would be good.
Yeah.
At some point.
I will pay 2.
Okay. You want to pay 5?
No. Never.
Do you want to pay 1 to give me a heat?
I do. Yeah.
Okay. I'll take 1. I'll get a big D20 here for my heat.
Because you know it's going to the moon.
That's yours to access.
We both get to see it, though, right?
Yeah, but I just want you to touch it.
Dragon's Den.
You can't trash that one.
I can't, but
Bummer.
now I know it's there. After I complete this breach,
It's Dragon's Horde.
I know. I'll fun run in game 3. I do this thing, and it explains basically everything you need to know about me. My wife, you know my wife.
I've heard of her.
Yeah, she's great, but she's a very particular person, and so I have a hard time remembering specific lyrics to songs. But now she never knows when I'm intentionally wrong. Like I'll just be singing, walking around the house, singing, and I'll get words or lines close to right, but not quite right, and then that'll get the song stuck in her head. It's a little fun game that we play.
It's a great one. I'm sure she loves it as much as you do.
Yeah, she adores it.
See, I've done the Bopax though. Okay, I've done the opening.
The old Bopax.
I've done the opening.
Yeah.
Are you going to do the thing?
Well, because now you will start. I'll give you 2 heat at the start of your turn. Like at my first action next turn, you'll be at 2 heat.
I feel like proving it.
There's no way to stop it.
That's not true.
Well, there's probably like the Telemon cluster could put something our way or something.
No way is aggressive.
Well, actually, I can guarantee that it will happen. I will tap Bopax on action 3 and tap Bopax on action 1, unless you can get 2 cards in your front row, which is possible. Yeah. But like, you probably don't want to.
No. How many cards in old dude's hand?
3.
Yeah. I will delve your council.
Okay.
Before we get there, I'm gonna pay 3 to res shard winner.
Okay.
I'm gonna get 2.
Gotta go take care of that bad boy.
And then when we get there, I will pay 2 to give you heat. James Robinson, have you guys tried 4 players? I did, actually. In the middle of an IHOP at 9 p.m. on a Wednesday or Thursday night. I'm looking at 2.
Yeah. Barbecue Gate for 4. That could have gained me a money.
Gate. And an infiltrate. Okay.
Discover Icon's Fire. Anytime the card is discovered in any part of your hidden areas, your card or your deck, whatever. So that's very good for me. That actually means that is extremely good for me. But now I can.
Gain a shard off Barbecue Gate?
Yes. Gain 1 off Barbecue Gate, and which means I can now trash shard winner, give you a heat, and then tap on the start of my turn and give you another heat.
Yep.
So we did it.
Anyways, 4 player was good. I learned after the fact that you can actually play 2v2 as well, where your opponent is like crisscross from you. So you go, or your teammate. So it's you go, opponent goes, they go, etc. I also learned that the player to your left is your rival. So when a card says, do you have more heat than your rival, less heat than your rival, it's not every opponent at the table. It's just that one particular player. But yeah, it was a good time. It scales significant. I haven't seen a game scale so easily as this one into that kind of situation. Anyhow.
That's actually, I'm going to delve on your council. Any actions before I get your shard winner? I'm going to pay to break it, which will exile it. At the end of the run, I'm going to pay 1 to give you a heat.
Yep.
And then I'm going to access 1 card. And I can't really do anything with agents as far as the ones that I remember in the... I still feel like I don't know any of these agents. Well, Rory's 0, right?
There's definitely not 0. I don't think he's 0. Can you pull up Rory?
But is Bug 0? Are any of them 0 to steal?
No. He just doesn't have a cipher cost.
The closest one is...
well, close to 0. It's kind of infinitely different. You keep looking at this card. Are you reading it?
Sergeant Cole's
I am reading it.
Are you reading it because it's an agent?
Maybe.
I just want to know. I want to look at it now. Yeah, it is. Auntie Ruth. So I lose an action and I pay 2 to steal this right now is what it would take. So I got to pay the cipher, and then I've got to break the presence. So Auntie's in.
The funny thing is, I was actually just reading her subtitle, Proprietor of the Hidden Tea House. I had never paid attention to that. And then that's when you said, hey, why are you looking at this card? It's like, oh.
Okay. The turn is done. Everybody happy? Card and shard.
Not exactly happy.
Draw that dragon sword. I get the first player token. What do you want to... Let's make this our first player token.
Okay.
The Aidalon. Okay, and then this is where I think it makes sense, because right now it's basically I can either pay 2 and get an access, or I can pay 1 and get your 2 keyed. So I basically save a credit but lose an access. Shard. Save a shard but lose an access. Save a horse or a cowboy. You know?
Like you do.
Like you do. I feel like I want to use the ability just, to get it on the table.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do it.
Heating me up?
Yep, heat up. If I had a little more cash.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're going to keep our eye on Auntie Ruth here, everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Follow along with me. Now
Auntie.
it's like, again, it's like John's always 3-card Monty.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a little bit of 3-card Monty
Well,
here.
3-card
Classic
Monty.
playground game.
On the hard streets of Chelsea. 4-year-olds playing 3-card Monty.
All right, we're gonna play the math. Calling in favors. Go to 5. And I'm gonna draw a card.
All right. How many cards in hand?
4. You will have 3 actions in a row, and I'm sure that will not go poorly for me whatsoever.
I'm going to call my own favors in.
Oh my gosh, that's such good news for me.
Yeah.
That means you probably go to 3 each for free. Wow.
That's economy.
Turns
now
out
we're
your
economy.
opponent's
get
just
this.
gotta be that.
And then I'll go ahead. No, we're good. Okay, that's in.
You're not gonna res Auntie yet?
No.
Okay.
I get the first player QR code.
Oh wait, you hate QR codes. Hold on.
No, that's not true. This is not
You
explicitly
want a
true.
lance?
Yeah, sure, I'll
Give you
lance.
a lance. You'll be the first player lance.
So
Shard and a card.
I hate QR codes on the front of cards that are actually played, not a filler card like that.
No, that's
Jeff's got
very
my back on
specific,
this,
yeah.
especially Alex Becker.
Alex is in. He loves crazy theories. Big fan. Okay, so you get the first action. Love it.
So yeah. Barbecue Gate.
Wait, you just said the name. Now this is some mind games, dude. Well, I'm not discovering that card.
You should though.
I'm not looking at all. How many cards you got in hand?
None. 3.
3.
Just said anytime you forge a card or you stage a card.
I did that yesterday too, and I just played a card face up on ice. It's like, whoops. I wanted you to know that was Eli.
I mean, that does make you wonder, right? You would. I think Ruth has got to be that second slot.
This here?
Yes,
No way.
has to be.
Good luck ruining it, dude.
It's really a pain to steal.
I don't know how to say that. Kuzmanov? If you don't like codes on cards, how do you feel about Warhammer Champions? So that was the way to do it.
Love them.
There wasn't a code
Love
on a
them.
card.
That was just a border, and you couldn't tell. It's very subtle.
Beautiful thing about it.
But
was well
this, there's no mistaking what this is. It's QR code. You scan it.
That's all you do with
You
it.
don't put it on the front of a card. Please.
Oh, Zach. Even if it is Auntie Ruth, do I want to go bankrupt to go get it right now? You draw 3 cards. Or you could be saying a 1 and 2 and no, you can't because it's like you won't no.
What?
Okay, you know what? I don't even need economy.
Now you're about to be 3 up.
Okay. I should just do it now. I'm going to do it now. I'm just going to give you a heat.
He's going the distance on this one, Zach.
I'm gonna run that combo deck. I'm going to get to 5 and then just see your hand whenever I want. So now is the question. This will tell me exactly where Auntie Ruth is. Right?
How many cards do you
But
have?
if Zach knows that I know that. 5. Mm-hmm. So it's in your hand.
Auntie Ruth?
Mm-hmm.
It's not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was what needed to happen there. I'm going to delve here.
Here.
Yes. I feel like Bopax runs low to the ground. You don't need economy.
You don't.
Any instance before we get to this thing?
No.
Okay. Arrest Barbican Gate. There were no mind games being played. So you can either exhaust a forged card
Or not.
or give me 2 shards.
Yeah, so that has to happen.
I
forgot that it was a forged card. It's unfortunate.
Unfortunate. I'm glad we both got there.
See, the problem with that is that you then get a free 3-card access on my commons. Problem. But yeah, I mean the math is the math, isn't it?
Math is the math.
I'll pay 1 on the obstacle.
All right. Instant windows here.
Yep.
I will res or forge Auntie Ruth.
You got it.
Draw 3. I'll get a shard.
Still good. This is my second action. And then I'll break it for 5. And I'll lose an action.
You want to go look at 3 cards off the top of my deck?
I sure do.
Ready?
May as well see them, yep. Cool. Okay. Let's just ingest. Exhaust my seeker. 5 on the table, 1 in hand. Got it? Oof. Hate that guy. Okay. So we know Zach's about to be flooded like a... Okay. So I've got 6 on the table, 5 on the table, plus exhaust my seeker. And then otherwise I've got 3 and a 1. And so your hand's about to be stuffed. Okay. We'll keep track.
Okay. Mine?
Your final action.
And then you will get to go.
And then I'm good to go.
All right. Let's... Oh, God. Stall there.
Was that also an agent?
No.
You feeling a little flooded?
I'll go ahead and get the
Ooh,
inspector.
see, we're playing a different game here.
Then I'll get the cash back, and I'll get the cash here. And that's the end of the turn.
Okay. Everything ready? I think the first player there. Card and a shark.
Card and a shard.
And then I've got to go. I've got to roll down.
Warhammer Conquest is King of the Hill. In case anyone's wondering. Couple of shots.
My
Came up with
goodness.
that one.
Archive that bad boy. Okay, and then we get our actions again, and I need to find a way to make some cash. Well, sadly, I believe the only way to make some cash is to do it the hard way. Spend an action to gain a credit. And in this game, if you didn't know, credits are also known as shards. Credit is the old world currency.
Clearly.
But when the collective came in, they introduced shards, and so a lot of the residents have trouble keeping that straight. Because the old money, you see what I'm saying, was the credit.
You see.
You understand?
I do understand. I'll just install a card there.
Is that what you'd call a signal? That he's got his...
Well, he knows he's about to draw. He's got
Council.
at least one agent in hand, and he's about to have a second one in 2 turns. Or whenever he draws next, or... Maybe I could go through the barbecue gate and get it. Just cost me 3.
I just know the pain is... I have to not... This is buying myself time.
Yeah, you need to do that. Okay. Do we go? We can't trash. We don't have our economy is not running, so we can't. We can't. Now. All right, here's what I'm going to do, Zach. Okay? I'm going to do this, and I just want you to know that I'm going to feel very exposed after I do it.
All right.
So this is as much learning as it is being smart. So if this is dumb,
We're just here to have a good time, right?
don't make fun of me. I'm going to pay 2 for a telemail cluster. I'm going to forge or stage a card here. I'm going to use both packs to give you heat.
Yeah, sure. It's not dumb.
I mean, it's basically 4 shards.
You also just, agents are going to be in my hand. And you already have 1. You know there's 2 that exist.
Yeah.
So you can start playing a certain kind of way.
Well, my concern actually is that you have way more cash, or credits, or shards, or whatever you want to call it.
Cash is a nice neutral
It's
word.
fine, yeah. My concern is that you're actually going to take advantage of my total lack of econ to make the agents on board
Very
impossible for me to get by the time that you win the game. Because honestly, I don't even need the heat because I know that I know where the agents are to win the game right now.
Mm-hmm.
If you get them on the board, at least. Robin Lees, do you miss having remote service? No, not at all. In fact, I like a good tidy board state personally.
I'll put a card here. Yeah, I think playing Netrunner yesterday, the finite grid, the hand and shard, card and shard caps are restrictions that I'm rather fond of. It's an upside and downside.
It's just different.
Yeah, like Netrunner is it's
different.
even more open. It's like uncomfortable how many things you can actually do in that game. It's almost like a open world RPG versus it's just like almost debilitating the choice that you've got.
Okay, my go. I'm going to use this instant to draw. And then... I'm going to gain a shard.
As your final action?
My final action.
All right. I declare bankruptcy. I will delve your council.
Okay. I'll opt to not forge that. Would you like to discover it?
No, I'm good. Before we get there, I'm gonna gain 2 shards, and then I'll pay 3 to give you a heat.
Okay. I go to 3 heat.
How many cards are in your hand?
Should be 5.
I'm gonna go ahead and infiltrate.
Okay.
So just look at all 5.
One at a time, then.
Yes, but they don't resurface.
That's right.
Yeah, probably gonna be Agent Cole somewhere.
Would you like to break that for 3 and exile it?
No.
Would you like to break that for 4?
No, not a chance. Not a chance. Anti-Ruth.
Which
Can't-
you cannot
Can't
sadly
lose.
steal.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
so,
a bummer.
Okay. And this is 4. Okay.
Oh, I'll gain 1 for this discovery.
Yeah. What's this last one? Oh, capricious. Okay, cool. So you've got an Anti-Ruth in hand.
Yeah. No.
We're good. We're good.
Gonna be there on your first action too.
Sure enough.
All right, everything resets. Everyone happy with that?
Happy.
No, wait, I'm not happy with it. I'm gonna pay 2 to instant this Dragon's Horde and then gain 1 off of it. And then we will unexhaust. And then you will become the first player. All the actions are gonna reset. We'll get a shard and card. And here I go again on my own.
I'm gonna stage there.
Okay, yeah. So you turned off mine.
I can't. Now it's 5. Basically, it's so efficient for you to do that.
Yeah, that's where it gets good, right? That's
Yeah.
like now it's like cool. So if I had a way to like instant speed kill your inspector or something, which probably will happen. They won't call it kill though, you know. I haven't been paying attention. You haven't done any instant speed card draw, have you? So we know that this is an agent.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm paying attention.
If you're paying attention, for sure. Agent. Do you remember which agent it is?
Gucci gang. Huh?
Do you remember which agent it is?
I know it costs me 5 to steal if it's rezzed, and it's got a 3 in the bottom right, and it doesn't have a cipher. That's the best I've got.
Just these numbers.
Yeah, I don't even care about the theme. What does it even matter? Okay, hold on.
What is a theme?
Needed to discard at the start of my refresh. Okay, we're gonna get a little economy going, baby. A little econ. I think. I want to go get that agent. I want to get that agent, but what's your second card? Oh, I can't get the agent. I don't have the money. See, I did it. Let's stage it here.
Okay. I will delve on your commons. I'll go ahead and get a shard here.
Okay.
And then I'll just
I have a
encounter. Yeah.
I have a hazard icon.
Yep. Okay. And then I'll pay 2 to
You got
cast it. And then when I get to the bottom of the lane, I'll pay 3 to give you another heat. This is a very different game than our last couple.
I get 4 heat.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, we're playing big heat today.
Yeah, big heat. No
Does that mean we're
whammies.
getting better or worse? With a shard winner?
No, really.
Wow.
We're in the end game now. This is not looking good.
You probably needed to hit on that in a big way.
I needed a minimum of 1.
I've used 1 action. Okay, so it's my action.
Kevin, this is awesome. Saying, I've been following you since the pandemic. Thoroughly enjoyed your content. Signed up for the Hubworld demo packs. My first purchase from you guys here in the UK. Amazing. Did you get them yet, or did you recently order them?
Okay, interesting, right? So I could take you to 5 heat, but I don't think that's the game we're playing anymore. There's agents on the board. I mean, the game is already afoot.
I think you're just
So I'm going to instant speed here because we know what that is now.
you just want cash.
Yeah. And then
Jealous Shot saying, is the audio cutting for anyone else? Let us know if something's weird. King of Odinana. So what are the exclusive Covenant tokens coming for Hubworld? Well,
it's hard to love.
I'm not putting high odds on that one, unfortunately.
I'm going to stage a card.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, they got wooden tokens during the game found.
Nice. There you go. We're unneeded. I'll just stage there.
You've got a Telemel cluster for sure, somewhere. You have to. I'm gonna start getting into it. All right. My last action. Mm-hmm. Okay. Got it. We've got it.
All right, before we move on,
Got some things.
I'll pay one, get one, and then nothing.
I've got some stuff as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna get one with the Dragon's Horde. I'm gonna res a Disagreeable Inspector for one. Forge it even. I'm gonna get one. Then I'm going to forge Kaiser the Rat. Gain one. And then I will pass. Oh, then I'll get a card from my Telemel cluster. Why not?
Why not, indeed. Carnishard. And now you are...
I'm the Lance.
Numero uno.
And what was that? Is there a comment, Jonathan, that mattered?
Yeah. Someone was unaware of... Oh, excuse me, my mic. Someone was unaware that Ashes was doing Kickstarter until we talked about it today.
Yeah.
It's not live yet, but it will be.
No.
I think you might be able to like follow it now or something.
Yeah, on the... I don't remember if that's a game fund or a Kickstarter. Let me find it. I think it's Kickstarter. Yeah, they have a campaign you can follow. They also have a backer kit that they're posting updates through. That whole ecosystem is strange to me.
Yeah, I don't understand it as much as I should.
And I think a GameFound it was kind of like a backer kit format, but then they added on top the crowdfunding component. And then backer kit is like what you do as a creator after the project is done. But now they have things that are useful before the project starts. It's a crazy system.
Okay. I'm going to instant a couple of bucks. $2, in fact.
Well, hello there, Chrysar the Rat.
Yeah. And then I'm going to delve onto your council.
That's your first action?
Anything before the Disagreeable Inspector.
No, I'll just go ahead and gain a shard.
And then I will opt to not break that.
I'm going to assume you don't have instance and I can just forge
sure.
this. Transit station, while it's in my middle row, it gets +2 barrier.
Okay.
So it's 3 barrier 1 to deal with.
I'll exhaust Disagreeable for -2 and pay 1.
Okay.
And
The inspector finds your transit station lacking.
Yes. Yeah, he inspected the heck out of that transit station.
I'll pay 1 to break the transit station.
To break it.
Yeah.
Breaker 1/9. Before you get here, I'm gonna go ahead and res. Eye Enforcers.
Nice.
So when you counter it, you lose a shard, and then
You can lose a shard to force me to do this thing.
archive a random from engaged player's council. We'll be doing that.
Okay, and then it is a barrier of 3, which I will bounce right off of.
They said no.
No. And then it's over to you.
All right. Let's just go ahead and check your archives.
Oh. Well. We're going here. Nothing. Doom. Do I got any instants that matter? I do not. How many cards would you like to access? 4?
4.
Random. Barbecue Gate. I'll take a credit off of that. Sure. What kind of a madman puts Iron Forces in his archive? What?
Crazy. I will do this. I will archive the top card of my commons to archive a random card from your hand.
Very unlikely that's an agent.
This?
Yeah. Although you had them stacked you had them double decked there pretty good, so.
I'm just trying to get Aunt May over there in the archives.
Okay. Over to Steven. Okay.
Where did my money go? Oh, I forged all that stuff, I remember.
You guys are really playing a game today. This one feels different.
It does feel different. I have my reasons. I can't cover that until we're done, though.
I'm going to do a instant here. This is my second action. You've taken 1, yeah? I've taken 1, you've taken 1. Let's get my second action. Yeah. Let's see what we've got here. Okay. And then I'm going to stage here for my action.
The upside down card.
Oh my gosh.
It is a peculiarity about you. Because I would never expect you to be the person to do that.
No, it's just absolutely wrong.
Yeah. I didn't want to say it. But I'm glad someone did.
Let me... No. Here. Just to really mess with you. You're also staging. Is that an agent staging?
Aging?
Before your Iron Forces, that would be a risky move. Last action, I'll stage here.
Okay.
We can go to 5 heat for what it's worth, which is cool. You know? That ability
I've never
is
been
cool.
there.
That ability is cool.
Yeah.
I like it.
I will just gain a shard the hard way. The shard way.
Before we end the turn, I have some things. I'm going to go 3 for shard winner. I'm going to exhaust to gain 2. And I'm going to go 2 for Dragon Sword and exhaust to gain 1. And then I'll bow packs for a card. And then we will go to the refresh.
Card and shard. Okay, I'm going to pass that, Lancey.
Card, shard, Pass the lance. It is kind of cool that the theme of the game, you know, like, clearly Kryzar is running my district. Complete with dragons, hordes, shard winners, inspectors all around. Definitely like a crooked.
Something weird is going on.
So, yeah, they're making too much money
Yeah.
with Kryzar in the middle there, for sure. Kevin, you know, that's a good question. It just so happens that today's stream, in partnership with Hubworld, is also sponsored by Nalgene. They're back.
They're back. They signed the deal. I couldn't stand it after last
100%
week.
HDPE food-grade plastic. It is made in the USA. That matters to you. Comes in vibrant orange Nalgene Trail product branded thing, which is their recognition that people were using their chemistry bottles for hiking. And so they just marketed right to the hikers and probably made them cost a lot more.
Let's put that there.
That feels agenty, weirdly enough. I don't know why, and it really shouldn't be. I would never put it there.
Do you think our games today are affected by us playing Netrunner yesterday?
Yeah.
Like, are we playing differently?
I'm back in the space.
The net space? What's the opposite of meat space?
Hub space.
Hub space. That's the next game.
Yeah. This is up, right?
Spaceborne Rangers.
I'll never do it. Okay, Mr. Bunn. How many cards in hand?
1.
Is it the agent? There's an agent on the board somewhere. That we know. We do know that. We're going to take a look. It's in a book. Here. And I'm going to go 2, 3, 4, 5. Going to a big tuna. And then we'll hit the barbecue gate. We will exhaust here, and then I'll pay 1 to continue.
What if we did it again?
Ooh, you're going to gain 2. Or I can exhaust a forged card. You're so poor. I'll exhaust here. And then I'll pay 1.
Okay. Any instance?
No.
Would you like to access this card?
I'd like to discover it, yes. Okay. Cipher is?
Engage player, exhaust or seeker.
And break.
1.
For 1. Secured.
Who was that?
That was Gargula Larga. And then I would like to access 4 cards. No. No. Can't.
Sergeant Cole.
Double barbecue with Sergeant at the bottom is good, right? Because then it exhausts, you know, you put your garbage here and then. So we know where Cole is too. That's at least a turn away. Okay.
Okay.
Absolutely merciless today.
Mine?
Yeah. Just merciless, dude.
It's when you shift a card.
You're never gonna win a game again. I've decided I'm going to be great at Hubworld.
Those are steep words. How do you shift a card?
How do you?
You don't have to exhaust it, right? To shift it.
No. You can just take an action to shift it, or if a card tells you to do it, move it within a orthogonal direction.
I'm gonna take my first shift action.
Swap it if they need to swap. Why would you put the agent there? That's a weird, dude. You're playing so weird that like I don't even know. Are you scared or are you like good?
I think I'm just tired.
So not good.
I had a strange night.
Oh yeah, what happened?
Just
Baby crying.
it wasn't really immense amounts of crying. I just woke up to sound in the middle, like 1:30 a.m. or it was like.
But it wasn't crying.
She made like a noise, but it wasn't like she was up and being a problem.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But then I just couldn't go back to sleep. It's a weird
Right
night.
on.
I probably should have more caffeine.
Did you miss that?
Missed
Earlier?
that opportunity. I mean, I had some, but I'm not uncomfortable with caffeine at the moment.
Nice.
And I haven't had an uncomfortable amount yet. And that's worth exploring.
Okay, my next action, I'm going to go ahead and just gain a shard. And then I'm going to stage here.
Wow, I haven't seen that before.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm going to play smart.
I gotta say, I kind of appreciate your board post shift, Zach. It's very, it's doing nice things.
Look at it, it's so beautifully
Yeah.
You're going for best dressed here.
Yeah, well, if I can't win, I can win in other ways. I'm going to gain 3 shards.
Okay.
And then I'm going to Kryzar.
I've seen this move before.
Then I'll gain 1. Then I'm going to shift here. That's my last
That's
action.
your last action. Okay, I like that. Hey, look at that. You're moving around. You're playing Hubworld, baby.
I'm hubbing. You have anything else you want to do before this is over?
Was that the last one? I thought I had
Yeah.
one more. No?
That was my last one, sorry.
Okay, so I get it back to back?
Yeah. What could go wrong?
Yeah. So I'm just going to... it just doesn't matter. I'm going to gain a shard. Shard and a card, and then first action, I'm just going to delve here. So exhaust here to pay, and then
Look at a bunch.
Yeah, I'm gonna look at 3. I'm gonna see Cole and
Yeah, there
take
it
it.
is. Let's see. You get any more? You have 4 cards total?
Yeah.
Man,
Pay
that-
1, steal
that's
Cole.
the first time I've been truly agent flooded. It was, is this one? It's crazy.
I wonder. I'll bet that we'll see more cards that move things from council to deck to commons.
Cycles in event.
Yeah, there's just so much opportunity for when this is forged.
Yeah.
You may shuffle a card into.
That was
commons
I mulliganed 1 agent and drew into an agent. But
Yeah.
then the shuffle, there were 3 in the top.
Brought
So
them all up.
that was what was weird about what I was doing was there was actually a moment where if you just run my hand, you just win the game.
Yeah. Had enough money and stuff. On the
Yeah, I was
board.
looking at. I was like, if he just runs my council right now, I lose. I don't know what I'm supposed to do here.
I also another good point is the preview decks seem to be very focused on asset economy. So the only way you can get ahead in cash is really that fun run is the only instant speed thing that we've seen that actually gets you easy money.
Sure, I'm gonna take these back.
So my bet would be that we would see more instant econ, run-based econ, which I actually think would help because it would allow you to, if you get flooded a little bit, to stage an agent early and get fun runs and stuff to get a bunch of money all at once and actually get it up. So that even though you're flooded, it's going to cost me 7 to steal in the early game, and then it gives you time to get your board going. The problem is we don't have any money that can quickly get these guys. You have to get your economy going before you can kind of quickly get them going.
Sure.
Although that's why we both res Kryzar or Forge Kryzar because it's very easy to do, and the cost to steal is 6.
Is the lot.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, that was the. So there's. With Netrunner on the brain, one of the key downsides of Netrunner was being agenda flooded, and sometimes you just and with the way that mulligan worked, it was even worse.
Yeah, send them all back and draw again.
They've adjusted in so many ways that are good for me, which is 1, the mulligan is way better here, so the odds of getting flooded are so much lower, and even if you do, there's game to be played. That's why when I ran the 4 on your deck, I felt like there was 2 around, which there were. Old Anti-May is somewhere and Kryzar is another.
Yeah, closer.
But I knew if I couldn't see...
I had 3 out. 3 in play, rather.
Yeah.
Anti was here.
So if I didn't see one on the run, the odds of you having 3 that I could actually find were low.
Yeah.
You ended up having 3, so I could have possibly done something. But with the way these work, and you can actually use them, and there's a cost to it. It's like I knew I had at least some amount of time.
Now you got to pay 8 for this. Like, are you crazy?
Yeah.
It's such an interesting dynamic. Because if I just had all of these agendas in my hand in Netrunner, which we ran into that one time yesterday, it's just you're just exposed. Like there's no, especially sometimes you don't even have ice either, and it's just like there's no cost to it. But this is a natural. Taking an agent slows you down because there's always that cost to it, and if they're on the board, it especially slows you down. So it does give you a lot of time if they do access a bunch early.
Yeah. So it has to be you're flooded and your opponent doesn't have 3 of theirs show up for you to really have no chance.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas there were definitely non-games in Netrunner.
Oh yeah, like for sure.
Either you have no ice, or you have all agendas, or you have.
And I mean, in any game like this, any random card game, there's going to be games where you have 6 agents or your bottom 6 cards. That's how randomness works.
Yeah.
And the top 6 cards of your opponent's deck are 6 agents.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that you can ever win that as the person who's seeing all 6 of your agents in the first 6 cards, and they don't have literally any. Conceivable, but it's also like when I play sorcery, it's very possible that all of my best creatures are in the bottom third of my deck as well, and I just draw spells.
Mm-hmm.
So it's card games. Also, we can't get too worked up about it.
One thing I like is the tightness of all this. The games are faster. Mm-hmm. So if you have those, it's a lot easier to re-rack and play again.
Re-rack. Look at you. You're cool. Yeah. That's a cool thing to say. I've never heard that.
It's a pull thing.
In card games. I've never heard it, yeah.
Rack,
do you guys say that on the team, when you're testing Fab?
I don't know where that came
Re-rack
from.
them.
It's just in my lexicon of words.
Sick. All right. Well, thanks everybody for being here. A little discussion, a little gameplay. We'll let Zach go get some rest since his daughter's seeming.
Man, when I played that Barbican, I just said Barbican.
Keep doing that. I like winning.
Yeah.
If you have any additional thoughts about this discussion, come to our Discord, go to the Hubworld Aidalon channel, and put them there. And if you have any questions about the game, go to the channel and ask them there. And if you have questions about even how to be good at Hubworld, or how to evaluate whether this is worth doing or not, or should I pay 5 shards to access 2 cards? Is that a decent exchange rate? Or is that overpaying? Or, where should I put my best agents, assets, those kinds of things? Any questions like that, we're happy to help as best we can. Having probably more experience than most, if not all at this point. We played a bunch well before all this launched.
Yeah,
so,
anyone that's not on the actual development team or testing team.
We've got some ideas.
They probably have us outgunned.
But come to our Discord, check out our Hubworld channel, and we'll answer questions there, and we will see you there. Thank you guys for watching.